Welcome to CrimePod Castle Unsolved Mystery Series.
Episode 77.
Today, we're diving into a case that's both intriguing and deeply unsettling.
It is.
The unsolved murder of Satyendra Dubey.
Yes.
You might be wondering why a case from 2003 is still relevant today. And trust me, by the end of this deep dive, you'll understand why this story continues to resonate.
I think that's one of the most fascinating things about this case is that it goes beyond a simple whodunit.
Right.
It delves into this murky world of whistleblowing and corruption and the price one man paid for speaking truth to power.
Exactly. So for those unfamiliar with Satyendra Dubey, let me give you a little background.
Okay.
Dubey was a brilliant engineer.
Yes.
We're talking a graduate of the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, who was deeply passionate about using his skills to contribute to India's development.
And he got the opportunity to do just that. When he landed a role as project director for the National Highways Authority of India. Working on the Golden Quadrilateral project.
Huge.
This was a massive undertaking aimed at connecting India's major cities with a network of modern highways. A project with immense potential to transform the country's infrastructure.
Imagine the excitement, the sense of purpose he must have felt.
Absolutely.
But as we know, this dream job took a dark turn.
It did.
Can you tell us what Dubey uncovered that ultimately led him down such a dangerous path?
So as Dubey delved deeper into the project, he started noticing irregularities, things that just didn't add up. He discovered this web of corruption with contractors cutting corners, using substandard materials and inflating costs. Essentially, they were siphoning off funds meant for this crucial national project.
So he decided to take action.
He did.
I mean, knowing how deeply entrenched corruption can be, that must have been a terrifying decision.
It was an incredibly brave decision. In 2003, Dubey sent a detailed letter to the Prime Minister's office.
To the Prime Minister?
Outlining the corruption he had witnessed. He was essentially blowing the whistle on a system that benefited a select few at the expense of the nation's progress.
That's a David versus Goliath situation, if I've ever heard one.
It really is.
Did he request anonymity, knowing the potential risks involved?
He did. He understood the danger he was putting himself in. And specifically requested that his identity be kept confidential. Unfortunately, his anonymity was compromised.
Oh, no.
His identity was leaked. And this, as we'll see, had tragic consequences.
It's chilling to think that the very system he was trying to improve
I know.
might have been the one that failed to protect him.
It's a very unsettling thought.
Now, let's talk about the night of his murder, November 27th, 2003. Dubey was returning to his hometown of Gaya. After a work trip, what happened that night?
So he arrived late at the Gaya railway station. And hired a cycle rickshaw to take him home. But he never made it. His body was found the next morning. Near the railway station. He had been shot at close range.
Oh my God.
His wallet, mobile phone, and documents all missing.
So at first glance, it looks like a robbery gone wrong. A tragic case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's certainly the initial impression the police seem to have. But for those following the case, the timing of Dubey's murder, just weeks after his letter exposing the corruption became public, raised immediate suspicions.
Red flags everywhere.
Absolutely.
If we consider the theory that this was a targeted assassination, what evidence supports that?
Well, apart from the incredibly suspicious timing, there's the brutality of the murder itself. If the motive was simply robbery, why shoot him at close range? It seems excessive. And points to a deliberate attempt to silence him permanently.
It's like they wanted to send a message. A warning to anyone else who might dare to speak up. Did the police investigation shed any light on who might have wanted Dubey silenced?
So the police launched a full investigation.
Of course.
As you can imagine, a case like this involving a high-ranking official and allegations of such massive corruption, it quickly grabbed national attention.
Of course.
There were witness accounts, but they were vague. People reported seeing a struggle near the station, but no one could clearly identify the attackers.
So no solid leads there? And what about the missing belongings? Did they ever turn up?
No, they never did, which on the surface lends some credence to the robbery theory.
Right.
But the missing items could also have been a way to deliberately mislead the investigation.
Right.
Remember, we're dealing with potentially powerful individuals who might have had the means and the motive to orchestrate a cover-up.
Right. It's like trying to solve a puzzle where some of the pieces are deliberately missing.
Yeah.
But even with those missing pieces, there's still a lot to unpack here.
Right.
So let's talk about the investigation itself.
Okay.
Did any significant leads emerge?
Well,
or were there any major roadblocks that hindered the progress of the case?
the investigation was certainly complex.
Right.
And some might say controversial.
Okay.
The police eventually arrested several suspects, and 3 individuals were convicted of robbery and murder.
So case closed.
Yeah.
Justice served.
No, not quite.
Okay.
There were, and still are,
Yeah.
many people who believe that those convicted were merely scapegoats.
Wow.
That the real masterminds behind Dubey's death were never brought to justice.
That's incredibly unsettling. It almost feels like we're dealing with 2 separate narratives here. The official narrative of a robbery gone wrong.
Right.
And a more sinister, unspoken narrative of a targeted hit.
Exactly.
And the lack of a thorough and impartial investigation only fuels that suspicion.
It does.
It leaves a lot of unanswered questions.
Right.
And a lingering sense that the truth is still out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's delve into these different narratives.
Yeah.
These competing theories that have emerged over the years.
Okay.
We've touched upon the robbery theory, but what are the arguments against it, besides the suspicious timing?
Well, many critics point to the brutality of the murder as a key reason to doubt the robbery theory. If the motive was simply to steal Dubey's belongings, why shoot him at close range? Right. It seems unnecessarily violent.
Yeah.
And points to a more personal, perhaps even vengeful motive.
So the brutality of the murder suggests something more than a simple robbery. It hints at something darker, more calculated.
Precisely.
And that brings us back to the theory of targeted assassination.
Right.
This theory gains a lot of traction when you consider the fact that Dubey's identity was leaked. He was killed shortly after exposing a massive corruption scheme that likely involves some very powerful, very wealthy individuals. And those individuals had a lot to lose.
They did.
If Dubey's allegations were taken seriously.
Absolutely.
The possibility that those implicated in Dubey's letter might have orchestrated his assassination to silence him is a chilling thought.
Yes, it is.
But one that many believe is the most plausible explanation for his death.
I think it's definitely a strong possibility.
It's like something out of a movie.
It is.
You speak truth to power and then suddenly you're eliminated.
Right.
It's a narrative that sadly plays out too often in real life.
Yeah.
Especially in cases involving corruption and whistleblowers.
It's a pattern, unfortunately.
But you mentioned earlier that there's a third theory, even more unsettling than last.
Yeah.
What is that theory?
So the third theory, and perhaps the most disturbing one, suggests that Dubey's murder wasn't simply the act of a few individuals trying to protect their interests. It suggests a much larger conspiracy.
Wow.
One potentially involving high-ranking officials who might have been complicit in the corruption Dubey exposed.
So we're talking about a potential cover-up, possibly reaching the highest levels of government.
That's the implication.
Wow.
This theory posits that Dubey's murder was orchestrated not just to silence him, but also to protect a vast network of corrupt individuals who had a lot to lose if the truth came out.
And this theory gains traction from the perceived flaws in the investigation.
Yes.
The idea that there might have been a deliberate effort to steer the focus away from the corruption angle and pin the blame on low-level criminals.
Exactly.
And the fact that those convicted were never convincingly linked to the individuals Dubey named in his letter only adds fuel to the fire.
It does.
It leaves people wondering if they were truly guilty.
Yeah.
Or if they were merely pawns in a much larger game.
Right.
So we have 3 distinct theories, each with its own set of complexities and implications. It's almost like peeling back layers of an onion.
It is.
And with each layer, the story becomes more intricate, more troubling.
More disturbing, for sure.
But beyond the theories and the investigations, it's important to remember that at the heart of this case is a human being. Satyendra Dubey.
Absolutely.
What can you tell us about him?
So,
about the kind of person he was?
Satyendra Dubey was, by all accounts, a remarkable individual. He was brilliant, dedicated, and driven by a deep sense of purpose.
Okay.
He wanted to use his skills to make a difference, to contribute to the betterment of his country.
A true patriot by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Someone who genuinely believed in the potential of his country.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes this case even more tragic.
It is.
It's a story of a good man, a man with integrity and a strong moral compass, who dared to stand up against a system that was rigged against him.
Yes.
His story has resonated with so many people.
It has.
Both in India and around the world. But what about his family? His loved ones?
Yeah.
How have they coped with the loss of Satyendra and the fact that his murder remains unsolved?
I think for Dubey's family, the pain of his loss is compounded by the lack of closure.
Right.
They've spent years seeking justice, demanding answers, and trying to keep his memory alive.
Of course.
It's been a long and arduous journey.
Right.
And they continue to fight for the truth, even after all these years.
It's a testament to their strength and resilience.
It is.
Despite the tragedy.
Yeah.
Despite the unanswered questions, they've chosen to honor his legacy. By continuing his fight for justice and accountability.
Right.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the face of immense loss, the human spirit can endure.
Absolutely.
It's a heartbreaking story, but it's also a story of immense courage and a testament to the power of one person's voice.
It is.
But his voice, tragically silenced, has inspired countless others to speak up against corruption.
Yeah.
Satyendra Dubey's murder became a turning point in India. It sparked a national conversation.
It did.
About the need to protect whistleblowers. And ultimately led to the enactment of the Whistleblowers Protection Act in 2014.
Wow.
Can you tell us a bit more about this act and its significance?
So the Whistleblowers Protection Act was a landmark piece of legislation in India.
No.
It provides a mechanism for individuals to report corruption and wrongdoing without fear of reprisal.
Right.
It establishes safeguards for whistleblowers.
Okay.
Ensuring their identities are protected. And that they are not subjected to harassment or victimization for speaking out.
So in a way, his sacrifice paved the way for much-needed change, creating a safer environment for those who dare to expose corruption.
Absolutely. It's a bittersweet victory, though.
Yeah.
A law enacted because a good man had to pay the ultimate price for doing the right thing.
It makes you wonder, though, about the effectiveness of such laws.
Yeah.
I mean, laws are only as good as their enforcement, right? Have there been any notable cases where this act has been successfully used to protect whistleblowers and bring perpetrators to justice?
There have been some successes, yes. The act has empowered individuals to come forward and report corruption, leading to investigations and, in some cases, convictions.
Wow.
It's created a sense of accountability, knowing that there's a legal framework in place to protect those who speak truth to power.
That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
But it's also important to acknowledge that the fight against corruption is an ongoing battle, one that requires constant vigilance and a collective commitment to transparency and accountability.
Absolutely.
The Whistleblowers Protection Act is a step in the right direction.
It is.
But it's not a silver bullet. There's still a long way to go in terms of creating a culture where whistleblowing is not seen as a risky act of defiance, but rather as a civic duty.
That's a great point.
It's about shifting the mindset.
Yeah.
Creating a society where speaking up against wrongdoing is encouraged and protected, not silenced. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one question that keeps coming to mind.
Okay.
Do you think Satyendra Dubey's murder will ever be truly solved? Is there any hope that those responsible will be brought to justice even after all these years?
It's difficult to say for certain. Cold cases can be incredibly challenging to solve.
Of course.
Especially when they involve powerful individuals and potential cover-ups.
Yeah.
However, the fact that this case continues to be discussed, debated, and investigated gives me some hope.
So you're saying there's still a chance, however slim, that the truth might come to light?
Yeah.
That justice, though delayed, might not be entirely out of reach?
Exactly.
Public awareness, media scrutiny, and the relentless pursuit of justice by Dubey's family and supporters all contribute to keeping this case alive.
They do.
And with advances in forensic technology and investigative techniques, there's always the possibility of new evidence emerging that could lead to a breakthrough. It's a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, we should never give up on the pursuit of truth and justice.
We should never give up hope.
Satyendra Dubey's story is a stark reminder of the human cost of corruption, the risks faced by those who dare to speak up, and the importance of protecting those who stand for what's right.
It's an important story, for sure.
It's a story that has touched countless lives and continues to inspire a movement for change.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unsolved case of Satyendra Dubey.
It was my pleasure.
It's been a heavy but important conversation, and we hope it has shed some light on this complex and tragic case.
I hope so, too.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to CrimePod Castle Unsolved Mystery Series and share it with your friends.
Please do.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a captivating mystery.
Sounds great.
Until then, stay safe and stay curious.